Blog Talk Radio.
It's Blogging Mothers Magazine on Blog Talk Radio. My name is Jenny Hatch. I'm the editor-in-chief of Blog Mom Mag, and I'd like to welcome you to today's show. Today's show will be the first article that I wrote for the magazine, read live, and I'll also share a little bit about some of the links that are tied to the article. One of the problems with reading an article is that you can't see the links that share a lot of background information on what I'm talking about in the body of the article. And so it's ideal, and I'll embed this in the body of the article, the podcast, but it's ideal if you can listen to the podcast as you look at the article so you can at least click on some of the links and go look at what's there. The title of this first article is A Few Questions for the President of the United States. It was written on June 5th, 2010. And it begins with the logo that I chose for the Don't Inject Me protest that was held at the Denver Capitol last November 27th, and it's a picture of a pregnant woman with a syringe over her belly. And then at the top of the article, I included a YouTube video that I made advertising the Don't Inject Me protest, and it has all of the wanted for genocide posters that Sherry Kane, who's an investigative journalist who came to speak at the rally, put together to identify those criminals who created this genocidal vaccine that's being used all over the world. So this article is about the H1N1 vaccine and its ties to miscarriage and the Obama administration, and now I'm going to read the article. Last September, I went to the park with my friends, and while our children played, three of us sat talking about the H1N1 vaccine and what we planned to do for our families. One friend had scheduled her 3-year-old daughter for the vaccine later that week, and another friend, who was pregnant with her third child, shared how much her OB had been pressuring her to get the shot. She told us about her sister, who was a nurse. The sister had received the regular flu vaccine and almost died. She told her doctor how reluctant she was to get a vaccine while she was pregnant, and he stopped pressuring her when he heard the story about her sister's experience with the regular flu vaccine. He said that with her, quote, family background, unquote, of problems around the flu shot, perhaps she should forgo getting the shot. So she did. She gave birth to a beautiful baby girl a few weeks ago, and just an insertion, I saw her at church yesterday, and that little girl is so cute. Anyway, here's the article. I told my friends that I had been conducting quite a bit of research, simply because I felt the hype around this vaccine, quote, pandemic, unquote, was so over-the-top nuts, it just felt like something was off. My friends know that we have never vaccinated our children, but we're curious to know if we plan to get the H1N1 because the new virus was obviously so much more dangerous and deadly, according to the media. I told my friends that we would not be getting the vaccine and that I was prepared to go to jail in order to protect my children. My friend with a 3-year-old daughter said she was going to cancel her appointment. I also told my friends about an article I had read the night before that made the case that the H1N1 vaccine had elements in it that would cause sterility. The article, Squalene, Be Very Afraid, Part 2, and this is the first article I linked to by Rima Lebeau, and it's over on her website. Rima Lebeau, MD, who's a psychiatrist, made the case that swine flu vaccine has adjuvants that impair fertility. Making people infertile is part of eugenics, thus genocide. She also said, quote, the plan to use this fertility-impairing adjuvant in the swine flu vaccine against a flu that has so far been far less irksome than the ordinary seasonal flu underscores concerns that this H1N1 mass vaccination program, mandated by the World Health Organization, with the support of the pharmaceutical companies such as Baxter, is designed primarily to cause death and injury, and so significantly reduce the global population, unquote. In this article, Dr. Lebeau also quoted Gary Matsumoto from his book, Vaccine A, the Covert Government Experiment That's Killing Our Soldiers and Why GIs Are the First Victims, and I linked to his book on the Internet. The Greatest Story Never Told, which is Chapter 3 in the book, he had a quote from Dr. Jules Freund, who is the creator of this oil-based adjuvant called squalene, And he warned in 1956 that animals injected with his formulation developed terrible, incurable conditions. I don't know how to say this word. Allergic aspermatogenosis, the stoppage of sperm production, which would obviously leave men infertile. Experimental allergic encephalomyelitis, the animal version of MS. Allergic neuritis, inflammation of the nerves that can lead to paralysis, and other severe autoimmune disorders, unquote. From that day in September to today, I have continued to research, study, pray, think, listen, and write about this topic. Was it possible an agenda to reduce the population with vaccines has played out over the past year in America and the world at large? Eileen Danneman, the director of the National Coalition of Organized Women, and I linked to Eileen's site right there. A few months ago, I heard about a woman named Eileen Danneman who was collecting the stories of mothers who had miscarried after getting the shot. The other day, I had the honor of interviewing Eileen on the radio, and if you'll just click on the Blogging Mothers Magazine Blog Talk Radio channel, you'll see that interview just before this one because I just did the interview last week. But in the article, I linked to the podcast on the radio. Since she first put out word on her Progressive Convergence website, and I put a link to that site, asking for documented stories from mothers themselves, she has since put together a database of stories under the Progressive Convergence miscarriage cases on her website, and I put a link to that. During the interview, she told me about 70 anecdotal miscarriage stories, and she said that she had received about 20 phone calls from mothers sharing stories directly with her. And just insertion here, I am actively looking for mothers, parents whose babies were miscarried after they had the shot. I'd like to invite all of you to come on this radio show and share your story. If you're not one of those people who've recorded your stories with her at the VEERS database, just feel free to contact me at bloggingmothersmag@yahoo.com, and we'll schedule a session for you to be on the radio to share your story. And she also has data from VEERS, the vaccine reporting system, set up by the government, and they have over 150 miscarriage stories. So altogether, over 200 miscarriages. And these miscarriages happened during all three trimesters, first, second, and third. Many were in the first trimester. Some of these ladies were actually forced to get this H1N1 vaccine. She said, I had nurses say that they had doctors tell them that you can kill yourselves or you can kill your babies if you don't get this vaccine. She also said the H1N1 virus was being blamed for the deaths of 27 pregnant women. So we've been researching that as well. It turns out that these quote-unquote 27 women, they didn't do any, for most of them, they didn't do any reliable tests that they had H1N1. It was just empirical and other things that are not actually credible. The CDC appears to be allowed to put out incredible information without substance, but yet when we show them that these 200 and more women had miscarriages maybe 2 weeks later after the H1N1, but the sonogram showed that the babies miscarried an hour, a day, a week after the vaccine, unquote. I just put that quote in the body of the article. It was an honor to talk to Eileen, and I would encourage anyone interested in this topic to take a few minutes to check out the links tied to this article. Eileen thinks it was thimerosal in the vaccine that caused these deaths, and she does not believe that any squalene was in the American H1N1 vaccines. Yet, a simple test to check for